Picture this. You're standing in line at a coffee shop and someone cuts right in front of you. No apology, no eye contact, just a casual disregard for your existence. In that split second, you feel it, that familiar heat rising up your neck, your jaw tightening, a flood of words forming at the tip of your tongue. Your entire body is preparing for battle. Now, I want you to pause right there and ask yourself what happens next. I'm genuinely curious, what do you do in that moment? Take a second and think about it, because your answer reveals more about your freedom than you might realize. Here's the brutal truth we don't like to admit. That person didn't make you angry. The situation didn't force you to react. The anger was already there, waiting for an excuse. And this is where the Stoics, more than 2,000 years ago, discovered something that completely flips our modern understanding of emotions on its head. They understood that between any event and our response to it, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose. And the tragedy is that most of us never even notice that space exists. Think about that for a moment. Between the insult and your retaliation, between the provocation and your outburst, there is a gap. It might be a fraction of a second, but it's there. And the art of not reacting is simply the art of expanding that gap until it becomes wide enough for wisdom to step in. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher who was born a slave, understood this better than anyone. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters." That is not just a comforting phrase. That is a radical statement about human freedom. Because if your peace of mind depends on other people behaving well, you are essentially handing them the keys to your emotional well-being. You are making yourself a hostage to the whims of strangers. And this is the daily reality for most people. They wake up, check their phone, see a comment that annoys them, and suddenly their entire day is derailed. They walk into a meeting, hear a tone of voice they don't like, and they're defensive for the next hour. They come home, someone says the wrong thing, and they're starting an argument that nobody wins. Now, imagine the opposite. Imagine moving through life with such a deep sense of inner stability that external events simply lose their power over you, not because you're numb or disconnected, but because you have cultivated an unshakable core. That is the Stoic ideal. That is what Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, wrote about in his private journal, which we now know as Meditations. He was the most powerful man in the world at the time, surrounded by politics, betrayal, war, and constant pressure. And yet, he spent his evenings reflecting on how to control his own mind. Why? Because he knew that external power is fragile, but the power over your own reactions, that is something no one can take from you. So, how do we actually practice this? Because knowing the philosophy is one thing. Applying it when someone cuts you off in traffic is an entirely different battle. I want you to try a mental exercise. The next time you feel that surge of anger, I want you to imagine that you are looking down at yourself from above. Imagine you're watching a character in a film. This character is getting upset. Their heart rate is rising. They're clenching their fists. Now, ask yourself as the observer, what is this person actually achieving? Are they changing the situation? Are they improving anything? Or are they just making themselves miserable? That small act of stepping outside yourself creates the distance you need to disengage from the impulse. Seneca, another great Stoic, put it beautifully when he said that anger is like falling down a steep hill. Once you give into it, it's nearly impossible to stop. The only true victory is not letting yourself start the fall in the first place. And this is where the practice becomes deeply personal, because the things that trigger us are usually the things we are most insecure about. The criticism that stings the most is the one that touches on a doubt we already carry about ourselves. If someone calls you arrogant and you get defensive, it's often because there's a part of you that fears it might be true. But if you are genuinely secure in who you are, an insult is just words, empty sounds that have no power to harm you. Now, I want to share something with you that might sound counterintuitive. Not reacting doesn't mean you are weak. In fact, it is the ultimate display of strength. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can scream, argue, or retaliate. That requires no discipline. It's the easiest thing in the world. But to remain calm when everything in you wants to explode, to smile when you're being provoked, that requires a level of self-mastery that most people will never achieve. And here's the thing people will notice. When you don't react, you confuse them, you disarm them. There's a reason why silence is the most powerful response to an insult. It communicates that the other person's opinion is so irrelevant, so beneath your concern, that it doesn't even merit a response. But let's be honest with ourselves. This is hard. This is really, really hard. And you will fail. You will have days where your emotions get the better of you. And that's okay. The goal is not to become a perfect Stoic saint. The goal is progress. Each time you successfully pause, each time you choose not to react, you are strengthening that muscle. You are rewiring your brain to default to wisdom instead of impulse. And over time, that gap between stimulus and response becomes wider and wider. There is a deeper reason why this matters beyond just avoiding arguments. When you stop reacting, you stop giving away your energy. Every time you get angry, you are literally draining your own vitality. You are letting someone else occupy space in your mind for free. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the practice of not agreeing with every impression that enters your mind. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you have to act angry. Just because you feel offended doesn't mean you have to be offended. You are not your first thought. You are the one who decides whether to act on it. And this is where the philosophy becomes liberating. Because when you realize that you are in control of your interpretations, you stop being a victim of circumstance. You stop looking for reasons to be upset. You stop waiting for the world to treat you fairly. And you start creating your own peace from the inside out. You become your own source of calm. And that is freedom. So, I want you to leave here with one thought to hold on to. The world will always test you. People will be rude. Situations will be unfair. Life will be unpredictable. That is not going to change. But your response to it can. And that response, that choice in the gap, that is the only thing you truly own. That is where your humanity lives. If this resonated with you and you want to go deeper on this path, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. We explore these ancient ideas every week and apply them to the modern world. Now, I'll leave you with a question I want you to genuinely reflect on. What is the one situation in your life, right now that you know you could handle better if you pause before reacting? I'd honestly love to know. Drop it in the comments. Because sometimes, just naming it is the first step to mastering it.